Today I'm making ancho shrimp tacos with a Latin slaw, and I'm thrilled because I could eat these tacos every night of the week. I love tacos, and these are flavored with a really great ancho chili spice, which is smoky, not really spicy, and we're gonna combine it with some orange juice and season the shrimp. The trick is to not overcook the shrimp, so I'm gonna show you how to do that. For the Latin slaw, we're using a purple cabbage, lots of lime juice, some crema to make a really creamy, crunchy slaw. And then the best part about this whole dish is it all comes together in 25 minutes, 6 easy steps. So let's get chefed. The first thing we're gonna do is make our rice pilaf. We're gonna start with some jasmine rice, which has a lot more flavor than long grain. It's got this kind of nutty, almost fragrant flavor just by itself. So we're gonna cook that. We've got about 3/4 cup, and we're gonna add a cup of water. You always wanna start with cold water. You never wanna put hot water in your rice so that it can cook evenly and come up to heat together. We're gonna start this over high heat, put the lid on, bring it to a boil, then reduce the heat and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna prep the rest of our ingredients. We will marinate our shrimp, we'll prep all of the slaw ingredients and get it ready for the rest of the recipe. The next thing we're gonna do is prep all of our ingredients so we're ready to make the whole recipe. The first thing we're gonna do is make our shrimp marinade. And I'm gonna start with this ancho chili powder, which is kind of smoky. It almost has a chocolatey flavor. It's not spicy at all, but it's got really good flavor for our shrimp. So I'm gonna add that to my medium bowl here. And then I'm gonna add some orange juice and our garlic clove to kind of really amp up the flavor. I've got just a little bit of orange juice. Just you could squeeze half an orange, or you can just use a little pre-bought orange juice, either way. And then I'm gonna take my garlic clove and mince it. The best way to do this, as opposed to trying to get in there and kind of cut perfect little dice, is just smash it really hard. Half the work's already done. And then you just run your knife back and forth and get it as fine as you can. Once this is all chopped up, we're gonna add this to our bowl, and then we're gonna add our shrimp. So the garlic goes in. So next with our shrimp, what I want to do is pat them really dry, because if I put all the water that's on the shrimp in my marinade, the marinade won't stick to it, and then I lose all my flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and pat them dry with paper towel, just getting as much moisture as I can off of them, and then just put them right into the marinade. And then the last thing that goes in our marinade is just some olive oil, about a tablespoon, and then some salt and pepper. Got about ½ teaspoon of salt, a little bit of pepper, and we're ready to go. I'm just gonna mix this up and set this aside for later. It's just gonna marinate for a few minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time for all that flavor to get in there, and then we'll cook it after we've prepped the rest of our ingredients. Next, we're gonna chop some veggies and just get them already chopped and ready to go. We've got some scallions here, and we've got some cilantro. We're actually gonna use them twice in the recipe. So a great tip is if you have to chop something for 2 parts of your recipe, just do it all in the beginning, and then it's already done. So I'm gonna take my scallions. What I like to do is cut my scallions in half, line them all up, get rid of that little guy, and then just thinly slice them. And then I'm gonna divide these in half, because we're gonna use half of our scallions for the rice and bean mixture, and half of our scallions for our slaw. Then I've also got some cilantro, and I love cilantro. Some people hate it, but I love it. It's got a lot of really good flavor. The nice thing about cilantro is that you can actually eat the stems too, so don't be afraid of that. I'm gonna kind of take this and bundle it all together and run my knife through it. That's a really great way to kind of get a fine chop really quickly. And again, I'm gonna use this in 2 places. So I'm gonna go ahead and push this aside. I'm gonna take half my cilantro and scallions, half my cilantro and scallions, and make 2 little piles. That way I know one's going in my rice, one's going in my slaw. And the last bit of knife work that I really have to do is attack my avocado. So how do you cut an avocado? We're gonna start by cutting it in half, pulling it apart. We're lucky, we got a good one here. Then I'm gonna cut this in quarters around the pit and just peel it away. The way I like to cut an avocado when I want nice slices is to, at this point, actually peel away the skin And then I'll just slice this into nice thin slices for my tacos. We also need to rinse our beans for the bean and rice pilaf. So I'm just going to dump it into a colander, rinse them really well with some cold water. I want to make sure and get all the water out of them so that doesn't make its way into our pilaf. The next thing we're going to do is finish our rice and bean pilaf. So that rice that we cooked earlier for about 15 minutes is done now. I'm going to take a fork and just lightly fluff it so I don't break up all the little rice kernels. It's nice and fluffy. That jasmine rice smells so good, kind of nutty. Then I'm going to take the beans that I drained and add them to the rice. But I'm also going to add half of the cilantro and scallions. So all that can just be added at once. I'm just going to get that into this pot here. And then we're going to season it up. And the trick is to really give it lots of flavor because, you know, rice is kind of bland on its own. So we need to hit it with a lot of good flavor. And we're going to do that with some dried coriander. And coriander is actually the seeds of the cilantro plant. So we're using coriander seeds and fresh cilantro. I'm just going to add it in. And the reason we're adding it at the end is it's going to give a bigger flavor punch. If we had added this coriander to the beginning and let it cook with the rice, it would kind of dissipated by now. We really want to taste it. So now I'm going to mix this all together. This looks really great. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I've got about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt going in. Also some black pepper. And then I just want to gently fold this so I don't make the rice mushy at all. I'll put the lid on and I'll put it aside. It'll stay nice and warm until we need it. Next up is our slaw. So I've got some great purple cabbage here and I've got lime. Lime is really what's going to give this a ton of flavor. So we're going to juice a lime into our bowl and that's going to kind of start building the dressing for our slaw. Fresh lime juice makes all the difference. You absolutely cannot substitute one of those plastic limes from the produce section. You have to use the real thing. So we're going to juice the whole lime in here. Then we're going to add in a little bit of crema. And crema is a Mexican cream. It's kind of a cross between sour cream and heavy cream. It's really rich and delicious. So just a little bit goes a long way. We're going to put some in our dressing here. We're going to add some cumin now. So earlier we used coriander for our rice. And cumin is kind of a similar flavor. It's a little bit smokier though. So I'm going to add this into the slaw. And then I'm going to add some olive oil. About a teaspoon or so of olive oil goes in here. About a 1/2 teaspoon salt. A little bit of pepper. And then I'm just going to stir this together. And then I'm going to toss my cabbage with the dressing. And the trick is you actually want the cabbage to actually sit in the dressing for a little bit and soak in all the flavor. What's nice is that cabbage is really crunchy. So it'll kind of hold its shape and hold its body and it'll soak in all the flavors. I'm going to toss this around and add in the second half of the cilantro and the scallions. So we'll just add those in, give this a really good toss. I'm going to give it a little taste. It's really good. Really tangy from the lime, kind of smoky from the cumin. It's got plenty of salt, it's perfect. Before we cook our shrimp, we're going to heat up our tortillas. So I want to get my pan nice and hot. And I'm using corn tortillas, and they really come alive when they're cooked. You can't really eat corn tortillas cold, so I want to get them in a really hot pan. And I'm just going to set it in the pan, no oil, nothing else, and cook them for about 30 seconds on either side till they're nice and warm. In the meantime, I'm going to make a little foil packet to keep them hot. So I'm just going to fold my foil in half. And then fold it a couple of times on the side to create a little packet. So my tortilla is getting really hot. I'm going to flip it for that second 30 seconds. This is what makes this recipe gluten-free, is that we've chosen to use corn tortillas instead of flour. It's nice if you happen to be gluten-free, but frankly, I think it tastes better too. I love the corn flavor in these tacos. All right, I think this is done, nice and hot. I'm going to tuck it into my little foil pack and move on with the rest of my tortillas. It's time to cook the shrimp. I'm going to work in the same hot pan that I heated the tortillas in, and I'm going to dump my shrimp, marinate it all, right into a hot pan. I'm going to spread them out a little bit and make sure that they cook evenly. I want every single shrimp to have contact with that hot pan. And what's happening here is the marinade is actually kind of creating a glaze or a sauce over the shrimp as they cook. They only need to cook about 1.5 minutes on the first side. Now we're using 26-30 shrimp, which means there's about 26 to 30 shrimp per pound. I think that's a great size for a taco. And we're also using shrimp that don't have the tail on. That way you don't have to dig through your taco and peel those little tails off. The way you can tell when your shrimp is ready to turn over is that they start to kind of get a little tighter, form a tighter C, and we can tell that they're starting to cook that way. So it's been about 1.5 minutes, and I'm going to turn over every single little shrimp. This takes a minute, but it's worth it to get it done right. Tongs are a great tool for this, just to get in there and turn every single shrimp over so we can cook the other side. These only need 30 seconds on the second side. That's why shrimp are such a great option for dinner. They're super fast. They cook so quickly. I can tell these are done just by looking at them. They formed a tighter C shape, and when I touch them with my tongs, they're firm. I'm going to turn the heat off, and the reason we want to get them out of the pan instead of just letting them sit there is that they'll continue to cook if I leave them in the pan. That's called carryover cooking, and we actually don't want that in this case. We want to get them out of the pan so they don't overcook. So I'm going to put them in a clean bowl. Oh, this smells so good, and I'm going to kind of try to capture as much of that marinade as possible. All right, we've got our shrimp, and we're ready to build tacos. Time to plate our shrimp tacos. So I'm going to start with our rice and bean pilaf. I love that we have rice and beans in the same dish here. It's like an all-purpose side dish. And I've got coriander, fresh cilantro, and fresh scallions. It's really good. So I've got that on the plate. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to build the tacos. We're going to use a couple of our warm corn tortillas and kind of build them up a little bit, kind of stand them up on the plate and give them lots of room for our shrimp. So I like to put 5 shrimp or so inside here. That seems like a nice hearty taco. Just kind of layer them right down the center, just like this. Once I've got the shrimp all lined up in the tortillas, I'm going to add the slaw. Now our slaw has kind of soaked up all that vinaigrette that we put on that was made from the crema, the cumin, lots of fresh lime juice. I'm going to kind of just pile this right on top of each taco. There we go, just like that. All right, and then in come the avocado. It's my favorite part. So, just a couple of nice slices of avocado right on top of each one. All right, your tacos are ready to serve. You've done a great job. I don't know about you, but for me, tacos need a nice cold Mexican beer. Enjoy.